In the previous episode, Kafka started his training with Hoshina. Kafka is very grateful that the Vice Captain Hoshina is not angry with him, even though he already knows that Kafka is Kaiju number 8. Even Hoshina knows that Kafka will still turn into Kaiju number 8 and fight for others, even if he has to lose his life. Finally, Hoshina decided to teach Kafka how to fight so that he could become stronger with his own strength. Now what will it be like? Keep watching this video until it's finished. The story continues with Kafka training his lower limbs so that he can master the defense force flow boxing technique. Based on Hoshina's explanation, since the lower limbs are the basis of the defense force flow boxing technique, and in order to use the technique, Kafka must be able to flow power from his lower limbs to his fists first. Then, at first, Hoshina will teach Kafka the 5 types of basic steps until he can completely master them. Kafka complained at first because the moves Hoshina taught him were much more difficult than he thought. But after Kafka remembered Hoshina, that he would come to the ariake base twice a week to see his progress, and he could tell if Kafka skipped training with just one look. Kafka then continued to force himself to practice the 5 types of basic steps, no matter how much his body hurt. Kokoro, who saw it, then mocked Kafka that the technique was suitable for people like him who could not use weapons. Although at first Kafka was indeed annoyed by the mockery, but after he heard Kokoro say that Isao also practiced the movements every day, in the end Kafka became even more eager to try even harder. Kokoro explained his purpose for coming here because Hasegawa had asked him to hand over Kafka's cell phone that had been confiscated. But when Kokoro suggested to Kafka to contact his other friends because Kafka had not talked to them for a long time, although Kafka himself was eager to do so, it turned out that Kafka did not know what to say to them. Kafka was worried what response his friends would show because it had been almost 2 months since he had never talked to them again, since his identity was revealed unexpectedly by Kafka. Shortly after, he tried to charge the battery to turn on his cell phone. Kafka was suddenly surprised to see that there were as many as 503 unread messages. Kafka, who saw it, was still not sure whether he should open the order or not to mention that he had already felt something very big. Of course, it made Kafka even more afraid to open the message because he was already overthinking that his friends would definitely be disappointed in him, calling him a liar, a creepy monster, and what's worse, maybe they also didn't want to consider Kafka as a friend anymore. Even Kafka was so afraid at this time, right when he was again surprised by the incoming call notification from Ichikawa. Kafka accidentally rejected his phone so that he became even more mentally lost to contact his friends. But shortly after that, Aharu also called Kafka. Finally, Kafka also tried to encourage himself to pick up the phone to make Ichikawa upset. Why did Aharu pick up the phone while he didn't? Kafka, who panicked, then tried to explain to Ichikawa that he had accidentally rejected his phone. But putting that aside, Ichikawa became even more angry with Kafka. Why did he never contact them at all, even though it had been almost 2 months? After all, even though Kafka's cell phone had been confiscated according to Ichikawa, there must still be another way to contact them. Until when Ichikawa said that they were very worried about Kafka. In the end, Kafka was honest with Ichikawa that he was afraid. Kafka was afraid that he could no longer be their friend in Division 3, especially after they found out that Kafka was Kaiju number 8. Of course, Kafka was also worried that they would be afraid of him. Responding but that suddenly Aharu said, of course they felt scared, especially after they found out that Kafka's strength was not human strength but monster strength. So it's only natural that they are afraid of Kafka. Kafka, who heard it, could only sit sluggishly because what he feared turned out to be true. But after Aharu continued his words, even though they were afraid, but that didn't mean they hated Kafka. Even no one, he stopped considering Kafka as a friend, and no one in Unit 3 considered Kafka an enemy after they saw Kafka risking his life to save everyone. Suddenly, Kafka was very surprised and did not expect that they still wanted to consider him as a friend. Plus, after Ichikawa also said that Kafka should trust them more because everyone also believed that Kafka would definitely come back. In the end, Kafka could feel relieved and very grateful because he had good friends and also always supported him. After that, Kokoro went back to Kafka to say, it's time for their afternoon combined practice. Instead of immediately preparing to go to practice, Kafka was still focused on his cell phone because he couldn't stop crying after seeing messages from the 3rd Division members who were worried about Kafka's condition. The scene moves to the side of Isao, who apparently still has a little consciousness even though his body has been taken over by Kaiju number 9. But because Isao has reached his limit and his consciousness is fading, Isao cannot do anything even though he continues to try to fight from within. Isao also knows that Kaiju number 9 is currently preparing for the biggest war in history. According to Isao, there is no time to stop the war because Kaiju number 9 has also created several new Kaiju that continue to grow until they become creatures far beyond Isao's expectations. From here on, we will see reports of the appearance of several Kaiju before Kaiju number 9 began its invasion. In a place located in the mountainous city of Numida, a member of the Hunting Association who was looking for bears reported that he had seen the appearance of a Kaiju that emitted a white light. Likewise, in Saitama Prefecture in Agawa City, a driver of the Sonin Sujuka line had seen the appearance of a mysterious Kaiju monolith that smiled horribly above the train tracks before flying away into the sky. While in the capital city of Tokyo in the Shibuya district, shortly after, residents were frightened by a Kaiju in human form that suddenly appeared at the Shibuya intersection in front of the Hachiko statue exit. The Kaiju reportedly left immediately after observing its surroundings for 3 minutes. Then, in Kanagawa Prefecture, Chigasaki City, after a strange phenomenon of fish raining from the sky, a Kaiju was reportedly seen eating the fish by sucking them up from above the sea. But the Kaiju did not come ashore and disappeared into the ocean. Next, in Tachijai Prefecture, located around the Kamikawachi rest area, there were reports of Kaiju moving at high speed as if racing a car, but the Kaiju also disappeared immediately after running for approximately 12 kilometers. Then moving to Chiba Prefecture in the city of Sotogora, it was reported that several times the phenomenon of sudden emptying of crude oil storage tanks had occurred, and in each empty tank a hole with a diameter of 15 centimeters had been found. Then, in Yamanashi Prefecture in Hokuto City, a group of hikers reported that they had found several mysterious large craters that were thought to have been formed from a very strong impact. But until now, it is still unknown whether the crater was created by a meteor impact or Kaiju. Now, from all the reports of Kaiju emergence incidents, it has suddenly made the Defense Force officials confused. What exactly does this all mean? Since last month, there have been 14 unsolved cases of Kaiju incidents recorded. Something like this has never happened before. The only similarity of all these cases is that all the Kaiju reportedly disappeared before the Defense Forces arrived at the location where they appeared. This situation clearly indicates that the Kaiju must have a higher level of intelligence than the Kaiju that the Defense Forces have faced so far. Hoshina thought that it might be a sign of the catastrophic appearance of Kaiju number 9, and if that was true, it meant that they now had very little time before the disaster began, as the Kaiju had appeared much earlier than the information provided by Kaiju number 10. Hoshina began to report on the progress of the preparation of the extermination strategy. Currently, the decentralization of the city's administrative functions, preparations for the operation of additional power substations, preparations for the city's function as a fortress, the initial evacuation process, and the increase in the number of underground shelters are reported to be in full swing. Requests for assistance to foreign countries are being considered, but there are still problems related to the contents of the extermination agreement. such as concerns about kaiju information leaks, as well as agreements between the respective governments. According to Hoshina, this will be difficult to resolve in a short time. On the other hand, Hasegawa then also gave his report regarding the extermination strategy. Currently, the seal of Kaiju Combat Suit Number 1 has been removed and is in the process of being resynchronized with Commander Naromi. As for Kaiju Weapons Number 3, Number 5, and Number 7, since there are few suitable uses, they are currently considering whether to collect them all in the office or spread them throughout the country. Keiji knew that they were now still trying to gather all the combat power to face the kaiju that would appear in this country. Of course, it had made him worried if there appeared some numbered kaiju who were able to defeat Isa by a landslide. In the current condition, then it was certain that their combat power would not be enough to face the war this time, while when Keiji muttered, "Are we just waiting for the biggest disaster in history to happen? I didn't think being old would make me feel helpless like this, Isao." The scene changed back to the side of Isao, whose consciousness was getting thinner. He who could not do anything anymore just wanted to apologize and would entrust the future of this country to all of them, especially to Naromi, Mina Ashiro, the young soldiers, and also Kafka, Hibino, and Kokoro.